Hey everybody, welcome back to Tavian's World of Reptiles. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. Me and Maleficent are sitting here hanging out today. We want to come and do a video with you all. So today's video is mostly geared towards newer snake keepers. I wanted to talk to you guys about snake bites today. So one of the things I've seen way too often is a lot of new beginners will get their first snake, and it's all good until they get their first bite, whether that be just a strike or an actual contact made bite. It happens. No matter how long you've been keeping, you're guaranteed to get a snake bite. It's just what it is. No matter how long you've been keeping, it can be 10 plus years, and if you've never gotten one in all that time, you're going to get one before your time of keeping is over. It's just, it happens, like to the best of us. It doesn't matter what you do, at some point you are going to get a snake bite. Now, for a lot of beginners, it's all cool until that happens. Unfortunately, what I've seen all too often is somebody will get their first snake bite, whether that makes contact or not, their snake will strike at them, and what happens is they, from then on out, start making every excuse in the book as to why they're no longer going to handle that snake. I see it all the time in Facebook groups and all over the place. They get a snake and then suddenly they're making all the excuses. Oh, I opened their enclosure and it hissed at me. That tells me that they don't want to be held today. I'm not going to do it. Or, I think I fed them 5 days ago and I think they're still in feeding response or something like that. Either way, they're making every excuse as to why they're not going to go back and handle their snake. This is probably one of the biggest mistakes you can do. Seriously, it is okay to get scared when you get bit or when you have a snake strike at you because that is a scary experience. I've been keeping snakes for over 10 years, and even when I am feeding a snake and it has a really strong strike towards the rat, it makes me jump a little bit because that is a scary thing. It's a very quick movement. It's kind of unexpected sometimes. Even when you are expecting it, it happens when you're not expecting it. It's just, it can be scary. So I totally understand that initial fear. What is not okay is to let that fear overcome you. Is to succumb to that fear. It is so important for you to overcome that fear because what happens if you don't is you stay stagnant. You stay in that constant loop with your snake. You don't gain a relationship with your snake. Your snake does not learn to trust you, and you do not learn to trust your snake. And you guys just stay at a standstill with one another. And then eventually, what do? You end up rehoming your snake because you feel like you just have a creature that you're not properly taking care of because you don't really want to interact with it. Not that you don't want to, but you've let that fear overcome you, and now you just can't. You can't get past the fear to go back in there and try it again because your snake has bit at you. Snakes bite. It is their way of communicating. If you've missed all the other signs that they've given you to try to tell you that what you're doing is scaring them or upsetting them, then that's the next best thing they can do is to bite. It's their last resort. So if you missed all the other signs and they bite at you, then that's just what it is. You have to realize that something you did as a keeper went wrong and caused that snake to bite at you. Now, yes, babies tend to be a bit more just bitey for no apparent reason. Not necessarily no apparent reason. Mostly it's fear-based because they're very small and we are very big for them. So babies tend to bite a lot more for no apparent reason. No apparent reason. I quote that. Than adults do. Adults will usually have a very specific thing that you're doing that's pissing them off, and they're telling you to stop. And when they've told you to stop and you didn't, they bite. And that's it. Baby snakes, they're biting out of pure fear. They don't know what's happening. You're scaring them. You are huge. They're small. Adults, they're biting. Also could be out of fear, but also could just be something that you're doing to agitate them, and you're missing all the other signs that they're showing you to tell you to stop. It's so important to just not give in to that fear, especially with baby snakes, because what you are also telling that snake is that's exactly what they need to do to make you go away and stay away. If they bite at you, if they hiss at you, if they do all this stuff, and you just go away and you stay away, then you just told that baby snake, or however old that snake is, that that is exactly what they need to do to make you go away. And they'll keep doing it. So it's so important for you as a keeper to not let that fear hold you back from interacting with your snake. Because if it does, you will not grow with your snake. Your relationship will become stagnant. You will not gain trust with your snake. Your snake will not trust you. And then all you have is fear that is the basis of relationship between you and your snake, and that's not cool. You don't want your relationship with your snake to be completely based off of fear. So all I have to say to new owners of snakes is you're gonna get bit. It's going to happen at some point, whether it makes contact with you or not. You're definitely probably going to experience an actual contact bite, but you're also going to just experience strikes sometimes, whether that gets you or not. You cannot let that scare you away. You cannot let that scare you away from your snake, because then your relationship with your snake does not grow. I know it's scary. It's a hard thing to be like, whew, okay, it bit at me last time. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to take that bite again. But you got to do it. You can take precautions for yourself. You can use hook training. You can use paper towels. I prefer paper towel rolls or tissue rolls or something like that. I don't own a hook. I should own a hook. I will probably get one eventually, especially as my reticulated python gets bigger. But either way, you can't let the striking scare you away from your snake. You got to do what you got to do to allow yourself to get back in there to your snake to make that contact. If that means you can't just reach in there like you were before, if that means getting a hook and getting a paper towel roll or a tissue roll or something and using it as a barrier between you and your snake so you can get in there and grab them, then do that. But don't stop holding your snake because you've gotten scared of getting a bite. It's going to happen. And if you're planning on keeping that snake for its 20 plus years, you're going to get a bite. Preferably, you want to get those bites out of the way as they're babies. Not saying that you're not going to get an adult bite, but I like to think that if you can get your relationship good and solid with your babies, then you can have a better understanding of what those babies are going to need when they're adults, to avoid ever having to stress them enough where they feel the need to bite you, or just to avoid going into their enclosure when they're irritated and getting a bite because you didn't see the signs. So it's, get those baby bites in. Get those baby bites out of the way. Just brave it out. Most of you beginners have baby snakes, so it's the perfect time to get past that fear of getting bit, because those bites don't hurt nearly as bad as you think they do. It's when they get bigger that those bites tend to start getting a bit more painful. So if you've got babies and they're biting, you got to get through that. You got to take those bites and you got to get through that fear. And you got to work with that snake and teach that snake that you're not going to go away because it's huffing at you and it's biting at you. And you're not going to go away because it's telling you to. You have to teach that snake that you're here. You're not going away because it tells you to, but you're also not going to hurt it. You have to gain a trusting relationship between you and your snake. And if you let your fear overcome you and keep you away from bonding with your snake and ever going back in with your snake again, you will never have that. You will never develop it. So yes, if you are a new snake keeper or even a long-term snake keeper who's never had a bite before and is scared of that bite and might get one and start being like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore, that kind of hurt, after 10 plus years of doing it, like, really take a moment. Take a moment, step back and breathe. Remember that it is a growing relationship. It is all about trust. And if that snake bit you, it's something that you did. Recognize what you are doing, step back, and try to avoid doing that again. Now, like I said, when you have babies, they're going to bite you just because you're big. And you can't just assume that it's because they don't want to be handled and then use that as an excuse to never go in and handle them again. Because you're like, oh, it bit me last time. That must mean that it doesn't want to be handled and I'm not going to handle it again. That's not how it works. Babies, you gotta get through that. You gotta get through those bites, especially with your baby snakes. You gotta get through it, boo. I'm telling you, you'll be happier for it. Your snake will be happier for it. You will be less likely to give up on your relationship with your reptile. Your reptile is less likely to end up on Craigslist because you got too scared for it. After a while, you just didn't want to keep it anymore. Get through those bites. Get past that fear. You are going to be okay. Those little mouths are not going to kill you unless you're holding something venomous, which you shouldn't as a beginner. So, hold your snakes. Take those bites. Do what you got to do to protect yourself from them. If you got to glove up, if you got to do whatever, you got to get a hook, do it. Get into those enclosures and grab those feisty snakes. Do not let them scare you off, because then your relationship does not grow. Alright everybody, this is TWR. Just wanted to drop that little message on you guys. I hope you're having a fantastic day. Me and Maleficent are going to enjoy the rest of this day off. And I hope you guys are chilling out with your loved ones, loving yourselves, loving your reptiles, and continuing to spread those herps. Alright y'all, TWR out.